earlier in the week, the Bitcoin white paper turned 15 years old, but most people didn't even know it happened. Most people think, look, Bitcoin's gone from $0 to $35,000 in the past 15 years. Why should I pay any attention to it? I've missed the best performing asset in history. The best gains in Bitcoin's life are behind it. But what if that's not entirely true? Today, we're going to make the case for why the best percentage returns could actually be in front of Bitcoin and happen in the next 15 years. And we're going to do that by illustrating how Bitcoin is only adopted by 2 to 3% of the global population. And I'm going to make the case for why we could see a scenario where Bitcoin becomes adopted by 90% of people in only the next 15 years by 2038. And we're going to do all of this by looking at the 5 biggest achievements that Bitcoin has achieved in its first 15 years. And we're going to show you just how far it has come and just how far it could go in the future before 2038. So the first chart we're looking at today is comparing Bitcoin to many of the largest public companies around the world. Now, let's remember, there is over 50,000 public companies all around the world, and Bitcoin is already in the top 10 out of all of them, okay? That is absolutely ridiculous when you really think about things like that. So today, Bitcoin is around $500 billion in size, and this chart shows that it is around number 10 or 11 on this list, and it's already bigger than companies like Visa and Walmart. And let's not forget, in 2021, in that bull market, Bitcoin was actually over $1 trillion in size. And that means it was competing side by side with these other companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. So I think people really do forget this perspective that there are 58,000 public companies around the world. Bitcoin is already in the top 10, but not only is it in the top 10 largest assets in the world, Bitcoin was actually the fastest asset in human history to reach $1 trillion in market cap. So we can see here that it took Bitcoin only 12 years to go from $0 to $1 trillion in market cap. And let's compare that to some of the other largest companies in the world. Okay, we can see Google. It was the fastest asset to actually reach $1 trillion in market cap. Took them 15 years, took Amazon 24, and then Apple and Microsoft, the tech giants, took them 42 and 44 years respectively. So again, these are the fastest companies or assets to reach $1 trillion in market cap. Bitcoin is number 1 on that list, and another list that Bitcoin is already number 1 at is the best performing asset in human history. Not only is Bitcoin the best performing asset in 2023, but it's also the best performing asset of all time. And then we have this tweet here from a macro analyst, Charlie Vallejo, and these ones really do crack me up. We can see here that Bitcoin has returned over 130,000% over the past 10 years. And let's compare this to the best performing stocks. We can see just how much they pale in comparison. So Nvidia is only up around 6,500%, 20 times less than Bitcoin. And we also have Tesla, another high performing stock, only up 5,000%. This just shows how dominant Bitcoin has been over the past 10 years. And this doesn't even include the first few years of Bitcoin price performance. And that's where it went from $0 to $50 odd. Okay, let's not forget all that price data. And then another very interesting chart I have for you guys is comparing Bitcoin against the other 160 currencies around the world. And Bitcoin is already the 21st largest currency in the entire world. It's kind of poetic, isn't it? Bitcoin is the 21st largest currency with a finite supply of 21 million. Right now, there's around $500 billion of capital locked into that puppy, and that is why it is so dominant. And let's not forget, in that prior bull market, when Bitcoin had a market cap over $1 trillion, it was already competing with absolute giants such as the Great British Pound. This image here has a really nice comparison comparing the two in 2021. And let's not forget, the British Pound was the global reserve currency only 120 odd years ago. Britain was the dominant global empire in the 1900s. And look at how quickly things have changed. Bitcoin, a 15-year-old currency, has already nearly surpassed the market cap of the Great British Pound. Okay, this was back in 2021, but it really does highlight the point. Okay, many people say Bitcoin has failed. It's only got a tiny adoption around the world, and people really aren't zooming out and they're recognizing just how far Bitcoin has come in its very, very short 15-year life. So that is a little bit about what Bitcoin has achieved in its first 15 years. But where could Bitcoin go in its next 15 years? Well, I really like to look at Bitcoin through the lens of it being an emergent disruptive technology. Now, if you look at 3 of the prior technological revolutions that transform our world in the past century, let's look at their adoption curves, because all technologies do get adopted in this exponential S curve. Let me show you exactly what I mean here. So this study here looked at the adoption curves of the automobile, the internet, and the smartphone, and it actually found that on average, it took all 3 of these technologies around 10 years to go from 0 to 10% adoption. And then an inflection point is reached. And this study found that on average, it also took the same amount of time, so another 10 years, for all 3 of these technologies to go from around 10% adoption to 90% adoption, or full saturation. Now, again, let's remember these are all only averages. I understand that it's a very loose framework, but I like to look at Bitcoin through a somewhat similar lens. I think the first 10 or the first 15 years of Bitcoin's adoption life has been the slower part of its adoption, okay? Some studies suggest that Bitcoin adoption is only at 0.1% adoption, while others suggest that Bitcoin adoption is somewhere around 5%, depending on the country you look at and depending on how you measure adoption. Some of the more bullish estimates of Bitcoin adoption do put it at around 5 to 8% global adoption today. So looking at that same framework, if Bitcoin is close to that 10% adoption, again, it's not there yet, but it is close, would we expect to see Bitcoin go from somewhere around 5 to 10% adoption to somewhere around 70 to 80% adoption in the following 15 years? Okay, if it is to follow the same adoption curve as the automobile, the smartphone, and the internet, that is what we should expect to see happen. Now, again, that's just a hypothesis. It's just a speculation. I'm not making any claims. If anybody does want to read a little bit more about that, I did write a full 8,000-word article on this topic in 2021. I might link that puppy down below for you guys to check out. But what do you guys think? Do you think it is crazy to assume that Bitcoin could go through some sort of exponential adoption phase over the next 15 years? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Bitcoin's adoption S-curve and how the Bitcoin multiplier effect plays into Bitcoin's monetary J-curve, you can check out the video that we recorded on that topic. I'll put a link to it right there. And with all that said, hope you guys have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the video I popped up on screen right there, and I will see you all in the next one.